Jay, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people just like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. As often happens with this show, today's guest was referred by a previous guest, Linda Middlesworth, who is one of PETA's sexiest vegans over 50, who did a wonderful cooking demo on the show a few months back and said, you must have this lady on. And so when Linda talks, I listen. As a matter of fact, to thank Linda for referring this amazing guest, I'm wearing the shirt that Linda designed and gave me as a present. I think she might still sell them. I love the color and earrings to match. So thank you so much, Linda. So today's guest has a remarkable story. And if you haven't heard it, sit tight. She is the founder of the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Now, I've been vegan for 43 years, and it seems that most people go vegan for the animals. A lot of people now for health and for the environment, sometimes all three or a combination. But this story is somebody who went vegan because of one particular animal, and it's just such a heartwarming, just a wonderful story. So sit tight and please welcome Renee King Sonnen from Rowdy Girl Sanctuary to the show. I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. You brought tears to my eyes.
So you're doing great things in the world. How does one become the wife of a cattle rancher to the founder of a sanctuary for the cattle?
Well, me and Tommy married twice. And the first time we were married, we were not in we didn't have the ranch. Tommy comes from a long history of ranchers back from the 1800s. But somehow he had skipped that ranching idea. He went to work for Dow Chemical, but he helped his granddad and great granddad and all on their ranch. And then after almost 40 years of working for Dow, he decided to pick up the ranching again and bought the ranch in Angleton. And me and Tommy divorced for about almost 10 years in there. And then we remarried. And when we remarried, he had acquired the ranch. And I reluctantly moved to the ranch. I really didn't want to. I wanted him to move to the city. I was always that kind of like that rhinestone cowgirl growing up in Houston, Texas, going to the rodeo with every kind of boot you can imagine, every type of animal, a lot of leather, a lot of skins. I mean, I was that Houstonian girl, and I didn't want to move to the ranch, but I did reluctantly. And so that's how I ended up finally having a relationship with Rowdy Girl. Yeah.
Well, is she still alive?
She is, very much so.
Can she come on, or is she outside? She can't come on, can she?
Well, I do channel Rowdy Girl, so anytime you want to hear from her, just let me know. Believe me, I talk to that cow almost every single day.
It's just such an amazing story. So, it's so interesting because I was listening to some of the podcasts. How your husband took a little bit longer to join you, didn't he?
Yeah, but not too long. He went vegan for his health initially, and then the environment, and then gradually he began to soften his pride enough and his ego enough. He always loved animals, even when he killed them. I mean, that's what I always tell people. The disconnect, especially in the ranching world, and even in some and the hunters too. I mean, my husband was a hunter. I mean, they will tell you they love animals, and they really believe they do. So it's not like they're just saying it and they don't mean it. It's just there's a big disconnect. So when Tommy went vegan, it wasn't for the animals. Eventually, gradually, he began to soften up to where he could relax enough to say, I'm so glad I don't have to take my animals to the sale barn anymore. It feels so good to be vegan.
Yeah. I love it. Maybe we can talk to him sometime. So how did Rowdy Girl get you to be vegan?
Well, what happened is my husband was wanting me to be more involved in the ranch. And I really initially didn't have any inclination. I wasn't motivated to help him open gates. I wasn't motivated to help him clean out barns. I wasn't motivated to help him do much of anything pertaining to any work that was related to anything outside the home. I didn't have any problem in the home. I had my meditation and my yoga and my spiritual studies, and that's what I was into. And he could do what he did out there, and I'd do what I do, and we could just keep it that way. But Tommy wanted me involved, so he went behind my back and found out about these two calves that needed a mom. Never knew why they needed a mom. I didn't even think about it much at the time, but I went and looked at these two calves because Tommy told me they were babies, and he pulled at my heartstrings and said they needed a mama, they needed to be bottle fed, and one of them was Rowdy Girl. And I bought those two calves for $300 a piece back in about 2000, late 2009, 2010. And Bobo died very young, and she just had a failure to thrive. She never got her colostrum, and so she didn't make it. But Rowdy Girl just thrived, and she became like my heartthrob. I just fell in love with this calf. I had no idea she was taking me down this road, but she was.
It's just amazing because, you know, I just, there's got to be a disconnect. And you wonder, you know, obviously our ancestors ate some meat. They were largely, they say hunters and gatherers, but mostly gatherers. But I don't even understand in the timeline of human history when people started eating cows. That to me, it's just so weird.
Yeah, it happened about, from what I've studied, it happened about 10,000 years ago in what we now call Iran. That's when, you know, the humans back then started herding animals. It's interesting that herd and hurt sound so much alike, isn't it? But they started, you know, realizing that they could herd animals and you know, begin to, you know, buy, you know, trade them. They began to trade animals and whatnot. So it happened back then, and there's some terminology that we have even in today's language, like in Sanskrit, the words like cows, like the desire for more cattle in Sanskrit is the word for war. So like in the old days, people fought over land, you know, and they still are, because they needed more land for more animals, because animals was the way you identified your wealth and your position, your power. And it started out thousands of years ago. And it's interesting that in Sanskrit, the word war means the desire for more cattle.
That's amazing. And I love that now what you said, herding and herding sound the same.
They do. Yeah. It's like, you know, when you're herding animals for real. So I always look for ways to see how the English language works, because I think there's so much hidden in our words if we'll just pay attention. And so why would we want to hurt animals? I mean, it hurts them. They're not here on this earth for us to confine and put in a pasture and breed, and let alone put in a feedlot, you know, where they have to step in their own urine and excrement for days while they just are force fed in just unrelenting conditions. I mean, these animals are meant to be on the open range. And if we quit doing these things, we would have the kind of planet that we all want. I mean, when we take over and pervert the way the God of my understanding intended for us to live on this planet, I mean, we just perverted it completely. When we do that, it's just unnatural. And we've created such an unnatural environment, such an unnatural atmosphere for not only ourselves, but the animals, for sure.
You know, it's interesting because I always think, you know, the Hare Krishna talk about how when we hurt, they don't eat animals, by the way, but that they come back and get their revenge by giving us all these diseases that we wouldn't get if we weren't eating them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, absolutely. And when you think about, not only do you get the diseases like heart disease and diabetes and all from all the fat and cholesterol, but you also get the trauma. I mean, if you can imagine the trauma that these animals go through when they have their children stripped from them. I never even saw it till I saw it. I mean, it's like you don't see till you see, and then all of a sudden the scales lift, the veil opens, and it's like, where the heck was I? You know, how come I see this now and I didn't see this then? What is it about us that gives us the unique ability to totally, especially cattle ranchers and hunters and people like that, slaughterhouse workers? I mean, you have to really disconnect in such a way where it's just, you know, that nothing can get through until it does. And when it does, it's like the parting of the Red Sea. That's what it's like. If you know that story in the Bible where it talks about the parting of the Red Sea and everybody, I mean, that's what it was like for me. It was finally like I had an opening. When I had that opening and my mind opened like that, I ran to the other side. And when that slammed shut, it was like, get this meat out of this house. It was like I was on a whole nother shore in a whole nother world, and I was in the same dadgum spot.
You know, they say that when people know better, they do better. I don't know if that's always the case, but so many people don't want to know. And Paul McCartney used to say if slaughterhouses had windows, everyone would be a vegetarian. But there's a law now, you can't even film you can't film at a factory farm. You'll go to jail if you try. I mean, sometimes you get undercover, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like if people could see it, I can't believe they would still eat it.
Well, you can just, I mean, the very fact that they have to have a law that keeps people from doing that is proof enough they're doing something wrong. I mean, if they weren't doing anything wrong, then why would they care? I mean, why wouldn't you just take your kids for, you know, a field trip, you know, every year or twice a year to witness, you know, what goes on, since the food is so healthy for us, and since you know, the big thing that I remember hearing Tommy used to always say to me is, Renee, this is the way it's always been done. We're feeding the world. This is, you know, you have to, you know, you just have to realize this is what we do. This is what cattle ranchers are here for, is to feed the world. And that's a message that is given to all of us, you know, growing up, that cattle ranchers are here to feed the world. They're to be respected. They're to be honored. It's a good thing. It just means, you know, like I remember when I first married Tommy, you know, the fact that he had acquired this cattle ranch and was a rancher, I felt so proud of that. You know, there's this Texas pride that goes along with being married to a cattle rancher, and especially if there's generations of tradition and heritage that go along with it. You know, that's something to be proud of in Texas, you know, and anywhere else, as a matter of fact. And now that I know what I know, I see right through it. It's all ego. What's behind all of that, all that pride and all that stuff that we see is a world of violence. It's dirty, it stinks, it's hateful, it's mean, and we live in self-delusion every single day.
Even if somebody did ostensibly change or care, the thing is that's how they make their living. Like I've known people, but I'm not going to say their names, but one was the CEO of a company that produced sugar and one that produced cheese. And they both ended up with heart disease and diabetes and became plant-based, but they still kept their job because, you know, it's not easy for people if they have this to just like walk away, right?
Right. It's very difficult. I mean, I know right now one of our farmers that's in our program, you know, to help, you know, the Rancher Advocacy program, him and his wife, Cindy and Richard Traylor, they were not vegan when I met them. And she contacted me a couple years ago, year and a half ago, because she had seen our story and all. And this is what has happened a lot because of people have seen our story, is a cattle rancher's wife will call me and they'll say, I don't want my husband to know, but I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And they would just start bawling. Just the very fact that they're talking to somebody they can finally talk to. And this woman told me about a cow, her name was Honey, that her husband was about to send to slaughter because she had a bad leg. long story short is we worked it out, and we ended up taking that cow, and also her daughter to another sanctuary, and got and found refuge for these two cows. But in the meantime, I met this man and this woman where they were in their living room. We were able to get recorded footage of the conversation. There was no way he would ever be vegan, but she was very open-minded. And we had a really interesting conversation. And because we sat there, me and my husband were actually there together, because we were able to talk to him in his language, we were in a conversation with him, and we heard him say things like, I must be a hypocrite. For me to say I love animals and to take them off to the sale barn and drop them off, he said, man, he says, I might as well be a murderer. And see, he had never said anything like that ever in his life to anybody, let alone out loud. And when he said that, tears started rolling down his eyes. He was in his kitchen. And he looked at me, and he said, he looked at his wife, and he looked at Tommy, and he said, is this a setup? What am I even telling y'all this for? But see, this is part of what I know is so needed. The ranchers that I know, the ones that I've met, most of them really, really do have a heart for the animals. They're just doing what they've always done. Like you said, this is what they do. When the cows, you have a cow-calf operation, what does a cow-calf operation do? They breed. And then, they breed naturally. They're not artificially inseminated. They breed. And then 6 months later, their calves go to the sale barn. That's the way that typically goes. So every 6 months, you're taking babies away from the mother and taking them to the sale barn. And so what a rancher has to do is they have to take care of these cows and their babies up until that time. And then those calves have to go to the sale barn. And at that time, the rancher has to disconnect. The rancher, the wife, the family, they have to buy into that whole story that this is what we always do. This is who we are. This is how we feed the world. This is how we pay the bills. And so they disconnect, get that done, and then they start it all over again.
I think about the people that work in slaughterhouses. They don't get paid very much. A lot of them are maybe illegal immigrants. They don't speak English. And, you wonder from their perspective that how they feel about this. They have to really disconnect, because it's one thing to drop an animal off at the sale barn, and it's another thing to kill the animal.
Oh, let me tell you, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be on the front lines of watching the terror come down that line every second. What that must do to a person, to their soul, to their spirit, to their mind, to their heart. I mean, my husband, used to always say, I can't eat animals that I know. I mean, I remember pushing my husband one time to the brink of, wanting to kill one of our own animals so that we could, this is before we were vegan, obviously. But I was wanting to get away from, buying the food at the store, because I was starting to open up and I didn't know where it was going. But I didn't understand why we didn't eat our own animals. Why were we buying animals at the store, but we weren't eating our own? When we knew they were grass fed, we knew where the meat came from, right? Why are we not doing that? And what my husband finally said is because he could not eat an animal that he knew. So you can imagine if a rancher, and a lot of ranchers are like this. They, not all of them, but some of them are. They don't want to eat the animals they know. As long as they can put them in a truck, trailer, haul them to the sale barn, not see it, they're okay. But I cannot imagine working at a slaughterhouse day in, day out. We've got to change this system, we got to end it. And I think it's happening. It isn't happening as fast as I think any of us want it to happen, but it's happening. It's going to happen.
I'm contemplating having a former slaughterhouse worker on the show. It's just that I think it would be so traumatic, just to even hear what they have to say,
Yeah, I've heard, I've seen some posts on Facebook and, and Instagram about, former slaughterhouse workers and, what they say. I know there was a guy, I was in I was in some sort of a documentary a couple years back. Can't think of her name right now, but she came down from the UK and she filmed me and Tommy. And there was another person that she was also interviewing that was in this mini documentary. And he was a former slaughterhouse worker. And so I got to talk to him, messaging back and forth with him on Facebook, and it's so dark. It's just so dark, that people that wake up. I mean, imagine it like this. I'm in recovery. And I can only imagine when I used to drink and I would wake up somewhere from a blackout and I'm like, where was I? What was I thinking? Where am I? I mean, that's kind of like the way I imagine somebody that works in a slaughterhouse. I mean, all of a sudden you're slitting throats left and right, slitting throats, pulling skin, and then all of a sudden you're waking up to what you're really doing. It would be like you've been in a freaking blackout, right?
And then they go have their lunch and they have a burger or some kind of meat sandwich. It's yeah. What's tell us about the initiative that you're doing with ranchers.
Well, it started, the Rancher Advocacy Program started as a result of when our story went viral on CBS Evening News about four years ago. It blew up our website. It blew up all over the place. It was shared around millions of times all over the world. And and so what happened as a result of that, we ended up on Animal Planet, and Southwest Airlines picked up our story, and Texas Country Reporter, and documentaries started happening, and our story started landing in the lap of everyday rancher families. And so they would be just watching their news at home or on an airplane and open it up, and here's these former ranchers, and we started making a connection with people that other people couldn't make that connection with, because a lot of ranchers just they don't warm up to vegans typically. I mean, most ranchers are not going to just want to sit down and talk to your typical vegan. But when there used to be cattle ranchers, especially, when you have a husband like I do, that's, his family was from Germany. He is he was born in a family of cattle ranchers, and now he's plant-based. People started listening. And so as a result of that, rancher families started contacting me, mainly the wives. And it was an initiative that was born out of an organic need. I didn't know I was creating the Rancher Advocacy Program. I didn't know it was happening. I remember Nikki, one of my consultants, said to me one time when I was working with her, she said, Renee, it's time for you to start thinking about programming. And, what kind of programming is going to set you apart from other sanctuaries, what's unique and all. And she says, let's just talk about that for a minute. Let's brainstorm. And so as a result of that, I just started talking about some of these calls I was getting from these ranchers' wives. And she got real quiet for a second, because this is what Nikki does. I mean, Nikki's a pretty amazing person. She's behind the scenes doing a lot of things. And she said, Renee, you're onto something. Nobody's doing that. And I said, doing what? Reaching out to ranchers, being a resource to ranchers as a vegan. And I said, oh, a rancher advocate. And she went, yeah. I said, all right. So we have the Rancher Advocacy Program. And that's where it started. And Nikki helped me flesh it out, the initial build out of what it might look like. And from there, it has become a coalition of people that have helped me with business planning, research. I've managed to find funding, and but mainly what we're doing is pioneering a way. Because what I see that has happened since I started all of this, because when I started having conversations about this with leaders in the movement like Gene Bauer and Miyoko and Leah Garces and people we all know, it was like, this was, nobody was doing this stuff yet. And now look, it's like farm transitions is becoming something it's becoming a thing. It's becoming a thing that people need to do, and they know that they need to do it. And so it's just so cool to be a part of something where that lives are really changing, and you can make a difference in people's lives.
So tell us a little bit about the sanctuary. Where is it? Can people visit? How many animals do you have?
Rowdy Girl Sanctuary is now in Welder, Texas. We used to be in Angleton, but now we're in Welder, which is near Austin and San Antonio, not too far from Houston. And currently we're allowing visitors 4 or less here, volunteers 4 or less. There's our website is rowdygirlsanctuary.org, or you can go to rancheradvocacy.org. You can reach us, you can follow us on, all social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube. And I do want to tell you that we're going to have Jane Velez Mitchell is on our board, and we're going to be having the RAP live online summit November 21st. It's going to be the first of many. And it's going to be just like a 2-hour. We're going to answer some really tough questions about how to transition farms. And we're going to have great people that, are all in this conversation, talking with us around these subjects. And we're going to have it, we're going to have it every quarter. So save the date, November 21st, for the first ever RAP Live Online Summit. That
sounds great.
Yeah.
So what do the animals do all day when they're not being raised for food? Like what's a day in the life of a cow like?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to forget to answer that question. Sometimes I just get carried away. Forgive me. We have a little over 100 animals here, and we have 60 cows, and we have right at almost 30 chickens and roosters. We have 5 goats. We have 2 sheep. We have 2 donkeys. We have 3 horses. We have 3 great big hogs. We have 2 pot bellies. We have 2 ducks, and we have Sealy and a partridge in a pear tree. But it's Sealy's a house turkey. Sealy lives in the farmhouse. She's 9 years old, and she's ornery and beautiful, and we just love this turkey. But we do as much as we, in my mind, you can never do enough for the animals. I don't care how good we give it to them. They always need it better. The fact that they even need to be in a sanctuary at all, to me, is not normal. They need to be out there in the world. We need to be protecting their habitat, their environment, their land, so that animals, like ducks and cows and chickens and all can live free. We're experiencing some of this right now with the pandemic and COVID. We're not living free anymore. We're you can't go anywhere without a face mask, and you're having to stay home. This is just a touch of the iceberg to what animals have to go through. But the animals here, it's so cool to see the cows, have land to roam, pastures, ponds and, feeding streams, like streams that they can get into, and relationships that they can make. And if I could, AJ, I would open my doors, and every cow, every chicken, all of them would live right here in my house. My house is full of animals. I have 3 cats and 3 dogs in the house and 3 dogs outside. But if I could, I'd have all these animals in my home. That's how much I love my.
Does everybody get along?
Well, no, they don't. No, I'm not even going to sugarcoat that one bit. No, animals don't all get along, just like humans. But you can see their communities. You can see who hangs out. Like I can remember when I first started noticing the community of the cows, and I realized that Tippy was the babysitter. I didn't even know cows had babysitters. And when I started seeing this thing happen, when I would feed Rowdy Girl, she would feed me almost like I really have this insight and this perception and this communication with Rowdy Girl. And I would feed her and I would see out into the herd and I would notice all these communities. I'd notice who hung out together, who belonged together. And then I started noticing this one, it was a bull calf at the time, Tippy. He would go around from cow to cow that had babies, and he would park there with their baby while the cow went off and ate and drank water and did whatever she did. And then when she would come back, he would go to the next one. And his whole job was to sit there or stand there and watch that little baby. I didn't know that happened.
That is precious. Do you ever think of making
it's just cool.
Do you ever think of making a documentary about all the animals?
There's one being made right now. Yeah, there's one being made right now. There's a fella making one. He comes out very often and stays here for like a week to 2 weeks at a time. And he spends a lot of time with us. And so yeah, there is one being made. And you can also see there's one called you've heard of Vegan Everyday Stories. I don't know, maybe you have. Anyway, our story's in there. That happened in 2015. That was the very first documentary we were ever in. And I had no idea what was about to happen from there, but we won a contest and ended up in that documentary. And as a result, we've been, featured in lots of mini documentaries and stuff. And now we're being featured in this major documentary. And I'm also writing a book right now.
I was going to say, I'm thinking you have to have a book because this story is extraordinary. I'm curious when you say not all animals get along with each other, is it usually the same species that don't get along? Or is it like, for example, like certain cows don't like other cows, or is it maybe the goat that doesn't like the cow? I'm just curious because I've never been, other than visiting sanctuaries, I don't get to see what you see every day.
Well, a lot of the ones that don't get along, like roosters, sometimes roosters are like, they are so cocky that, they don't want, another rooster infringing on their territory, and they will just fight each other and they draw blood and stuff. And so we're constantly having to figure out, like, who gets along, who doesn't. So we don't have all these vet bills and animals getting hurt and God forbid, one of them, get killed, because some of these roosters that we have, were rescued right out of, cockfighting rings, where they were born and bred to fight, for money. And so, they're really very cool, docile birds typically, but if they get a taste for a fight, they go for the death. That's just what they do. And so, there's those. And then the cows, you can just tell that some of them they rub each other the wrong way a little bit. They'll butt heads and they'll just want you to get out of their way, and they'll do silly things like that. And if, some of them have horns, like Frosty, for instance, he's our Texas Longhorn, and he has horns that go out here like this. And he's a beautiful, beautiful steer, solid white. His name is Frosty. And, you don't get in his way, because he can just go like this and he can take the tip of that horn and just like poke you. And so, and it's not that they don't get along. It's just that they have their favorites. They have their community, just like we do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, some chickens, like there's a chicken. If chickens, like sometimes, how humans can be, like sometimes if like chickens can sometimes really be mean to ones that are down. Like if there's a chicken that's down, sometimes chickens can be really mean to that chicken. And so we have to isolate this chicken, and we have to pay attention to all this. And it's kind of their nature. I don't know what it is. Not all of them will do that, but some of them want to be chicken of the road. They want to be top chicken, and they're gonna be ugly to some chickens.
I guess that's where they get the expression pecking order. Just want to take a moment to thank Louise Silver for the super chat donation. And she said, I can listen to her all day. Thank you for hosting every day. It's my pleasure. You know, I imagine you have to spay and neuter the animals, right?
Well, what we do is spay and neuter is interesting. Well, we have to castrate. Yes, we have to castrate the bull calves. And then we have to, you know, the roosters and all, we don't fix them. We just don't let the eggs stay there. Like when they have eggs, we get rid of the eggs. And so we just totally get rid of them. Sometimes we will boil the eggs and chop them up and give them back to the chickens because that is good nutrition for the chickens. As far as anything else goes, I mean, you know, the animals, they live here. And I'm sorry, what was I had a train of thought I was going on, and sometimes I do this.
Well, I said, no, that's okay. I imagine that them, you don't want them to breed them, right?
Yeah. I was talking about their food, and I thought, no, wait a minute. No, and so like the goats, always, they have to be fixed, the boys. The girls don't have to be fixed. All the cows, I think it has to do with my 62-year-old brain sometimes. I sometimes just go, what? But anyway, the bull calves have to all be fixed. The male goats, the chickens we don't fix, the roosters we don't fix. We just manage the eggs. And then, yeah, the pigs, the boys are fixed. The girls don't have to be. It's really traumatic for them, you know. It would be traumatic for a cow to be fixed because it's a traumatic surgery. So yeah, of course, we don't breed here. Now, in the beginning, when we first started, I mean, as a cow-calf operation, we were having some babies. It took a while to not have babies. It took a while to stop that train. But what's cool is that in stopping that train, we got to give families back, you know, we got to watch families stay intact. The cows that used to be so terrified of us because we always took their babies away, when they got to keep their babies, you know, when we were transitioning into becoming a sanctuary, I can't tell you how much that means to me to be able to watch that. And, you know, you can see, you know, we keep records of all the animals. You know, we have a medical file, we have a genealogical file. We know who the mother, who the daddy, who the siblings are. And when you see there's white spot out there and Surprise is right next to her all the time, that's her son. He's full grown. He's bigger than her, but they hang out. Rowdy Girl with her kids, Houdini and Magic and Stella, they're always together. You know, if you don't know these things, you don't know these things. You don't see that families are together, you know, and it just blows my mind, you know, like Betty and Veronica and Samson, always together. They're a family. And so, you know, you just have to know that these cows have rich emotional lives, and all these animals do. And when we tune in to their needs, to them as being equal to us. See, as humans, we have become the speciesist of the planet. We need to be equal to all living beings. If we're going to be good stewards, if we're going to truly be the kind of human we can be, I mean, we're given the potential to grow our compassion to no end. And we're also given the potential to be so destructive and violent and filthy mean. We have it in us to elevate, to awaken, to be enlightened, to have the consciousness that these animals are begging us to have. We are the only hope for them, you know? And so, you know, just know, I mean, we're not the only ones that have families. They have families too. And it isn't our job to separate that and mess with that. How dare we mess with that?
Well, I agree. And how long will a cow typically live if it's healthy and if it's not, on a factory farm or being sold to slaughter?
We have one out there right now. Her name is Agape, and she's about 20, 21 years old. And we lost one a few months ago, Muley, that was about 22. So they'll live into their 20s. 25 is old, really old. But yeah, if they're given what they need, and when they're confined like they are even here, you have to always be managing the grass, making sure that animals get the type of pasture they need. We have to be rotating them from one pasture to others, always praying for rain, because when we have to feed them sweet feed or and hay, have to always supplement that. And it's extremely expensive when you have to supplement food. But, these animals, they just, they got to be cared for. If you care for them, they live for a while. They live a long while. If we kill them, they're not going to live very long. Can you imagine having your 6-month-old taken from you and killed for meat? That's what we do without even thinking. And then we eat them. We eat babies.
Well, that's
and when you think about it, we eat babies. It's terrifying. It's terrible. Yeah.
What do they do all day? Like, what time do they go to bed? What time I'm just curious what a cow does all day. Like, do they play?
Okay. Yeah, they play. Oh my gosh, cows. Well, they love to eat grass. They eat grass. They hang out, and when it's hot, they get under trees and just, this is one of the things I used to do when me and Tommy were having the big fight before he went vegan. I had just turned vegan, and I started going out and hanging out with the cows because I didn't want to be with Tommy. I did not want to be in that house. There was deer heads all over it and every other kind of animal in that house. And I didn't want to even hang out in there. We were fighting big time. Oh my God. That needs to be in the document. That was, woo, man, the stuff we went through. But I would go and hang out with the cows. And one thing that I didn't know is that cows make they make these trails. And they're all over the pastures out here. All these trails. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't know if I thought it was a vehicle doing that or what. But cows always go the same way every time. They make their own roads to where they want to go. And so I went out there and I started following these trails, and I would find the cows, and they'd all be like just hanging out under trees or something. And I would get up under those trees with them cows. This was in the very beginning. And I started observing and watching what cows do. And cows relax a lot. They hang out a lot. They chew their cud a lot. They observe a lot. They just take in the world around them. And they really respond to nature. If it rains, they want to get under a tree or go into the barn. They don't really want to hang out in the rain. They will if it's not too bad and stuff. If it's not too bad, but if it's time to eat, if they don't have a good pasture, they can bust out of fences. If they don't have the grass they need and what they want, they will bust out. They will figure it out. If you keep them satisfied, they don't do that. But when you open up another pasture for a cow, like say you kept a pasture closed for a week or two because you're letting the grass grow, as soon as you open that gate, they frolic. They kick their heels, they run around, they're excited. I've gotten tons of video footage, like that on my Instagram and stuff of the cows, running by me real fast when they get into a new pasture. It's one of the most awesome experiences I have is watching these animals frolic and run and be free and go and get into a pasture where there's lots of grass and they just stop and graze. No worries.
How much do they have to eat? And how much does a cow weigh? A couple of 1,000 pounds?
Well, some of them, Cinnamon, and JD are pretty heavy. Cinnamon probably weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500, 1,600 pounds. We don't have any right now that weigh 2,000. That's a big one. But, when they're 9 months old, they can weigh, 800 or 900 pounds. So, that's why, and they always say, when you drink the milk from a cow, you're drinking, liquid, that's meant to make a little baby calf get big really fast. I mean, that's what it's for. And so, yeah, they get big. And ours range anywhere from, right now, probably Jetto is about 900 pounds, I would say. And then our biggest is about 1,500.
How much do they have to eat to maintain that weight? I mean, because I think about how many pounds of food I eat at my weight, it's about 6. So they must be eating all day.
They graze constantly. And if you don't have good pastures out there, you have to feed them. This is August, September. We bought already about 400 round bales of hay this year, and we're going to have to buy some more because we bought plenty. I think we have plenty for the winter, but we're going to have to buy more. And every one of those round bales right now are $65. So you do the math. You multiply 65 times 400. That's a lot of money. And then you have to supplement it also with sweet feed and cubes. If they don't have good grass, like in the wintertime, you got to feed them. You got to feed them hay, you got to feed them cubes, sweet feed. And that sweet feed is about $10, $11, $12 a bag. And when you're feeding a whole herd of cows, you got to spread out, anywhere from 8 to 10 bags every single day.
Well, there's a question from Susan. How do you fund the sanctuary?
Well, thank you for asking. We funded the sanctuary through membership. We have 309 members right now, and members donate anywhere from $5 a month to $150 a month. That's amount and our most amount that donates on a monthly basis. And our average is about $22 a month. So that membership is what we always ask people if you're wanting to help. You get a lot out of that too, because you become part of our herd. We really take care of our members, and we love connecting with them and sending them pictures and things, and calling them on the phone. And you hear from me all the time. A lot of people think I'm inaccessible, but I'm so accessible. I'm always on the phone talking to people. And then also we have, people that donate through, they just donate. They just donate one-time major donations. And then we do events. We do before COVID, we had an event every month. And so, members always come free to our events, but our events are usually $20 to $25. And so normally we can have 40 people at an event pre-COVID. Now we're doing private tours. And so folks pay $300 for a private tour. And that's with me and Tommy. And we spend 4 or 5 hours with them. And so it's just, that's how we do it. And then Tommy started a garden. We've been wanting to have a veganic garden ever since we started Rowdy Girl at the urging of Kip Anderson. He wanted us really bad to have a veganic garden. So we started, and we got flooded and flooded our garden, flooded all of our orchard trees. And so it became obvious that we weren't going to try to do that again, because we knew we were, going to have to be battling the floods. And so we finally moved here, and now Tommy's got over an acre of just beautiful, gardens that grows the most amazing food. And so one of the things we're wanting to do is start going out on the side of the road and, just put a donation thing out there and start educating farmers. So about veganic gardening and educating people. But thank you for asking. We are supported by donations. We have a foundation that has helped us a lot. We get a lot of people, go to their employers, and we have matching donations through employers, and there's all kinds of ways to help.
For people that do shop on Amazon, do you have Amazon Smiles so that their Amazon pennies can go to you?
I do. Yes, you can do that. Absolutely.
That's
Thank you for asking that.
yeah, that's one way people can. Well, we love tattoos on this show, so could you talk about yours?
My tattoo. Yeah, it is. It says vegan, and that's my logo. That's Rowdy Girl for real. And then there's Rowdy Girl, and it says Cow Mama. Vegan Rowdy Girl Cow Mama. And I was with Miyoko one day, and I saw her tattoo, that big old tattoo on her arm, and I was like, man, when I get me a tattoo, I'm going to put it right there. And so I did. And when I turned 60, I took my mama. And my mama's not vegan. And, you know, she eats vegan when she's with me. But I told my mama I wanted to get a tattoo. And I was with another vegan friend. And she told me about this tattoo artist that did vegan tattoos. And so I went and took my mama. She couldn't believe she sat there with me the whole time while I got this tattoo. And then I came home, and Tommy didn't know I was getting a tattoo. And I came home with this tattoo, and Tommy was like, Dora, you let Renee get a tattoo? He said, Tommy, she's 60 years old. I ain't never been able to stop her from doing anything. I sure can't stop her now.
That is hilarious.
So, yeah. And Tommy said, well, I guess if you were going to get a tattoo, that's probably the most perfect one you could have got.
That is so cool. Evelyn says, I'm just wondering, what do you do with the animals when they pass away?
Well, you know, thank you for asking. You know, one of the well, let me just show this. You know, this is Rosie. And Rosie was one of my horses. And Rosie's tail is in this box. I have, oh, she's in the other room, Stormy. Stormy is in a box. She's at the farmhouse. And a beautiful box. And she was cremated. She was one of my beautiful blind calves that died 3 years ago. And we cremated her. And she put her in a box, and she's forever there for me. And then we also, you know, when they die here, the big cows, we have a great big like backhoe, and we have a place where we bury them, and we have a funeral, and we have a place, you know, when the chickens pass away, we have a special place where we take the chickens, and we talk, we say prayers, we do ritual around our animals. So it's a very tough. I always say to people, you know, before I was vegan, I always had a heart for the animals. I always loved animals. But when I went vegan and I realized I could love a chicken as much as I loved a cat, when those feelings started coming from me towards animals I used to eat, it was shocking to my heart. It was shocking to my soul that I had been eating. Like, for instance, I remember the first time I thought this. I was fixing the leg. I was working on the leg of one of our chickens, Dixie Chick. And this scene is in that documentary, Vegan Everyday Stories. And you can watch it for free if you go on YouTube or just Google it. But I was massaging Dixie Chick's leg. And I was all up in there because I'm a massage therapist by trade. And I was in there just massaging and doing all that. And all of a sudden, I got this feeling overwhelming me. And it was like, I used to eat these legs. And I'm massaging it. And I don't know. It was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe I used to eat those legs, those wings, those breasts. And when these animals pass away, there's a level of sadness and grief that doesn't compare. It's a deeper sadness. It's not that I don't love my dogs and cats, I do. But there's something that happens when I'm real connected to one of our farm animals and they pass away. I don't know. I can't even wrap my mind around it. I don't know how in the world I ever ate their bodies. And so I think something happens when they pass.
Yeah. Do the other animals, I know that when babies are taken away from the mother, they cry for days, but when they pass naturally, do the cows grieve for the other cows?
Absolutely. They will go and to where they're buried, and they will stand there and pay respect. I remember when Houdini had a baby, and when she had the baby, and then the very next day or in the night, a coyote chewed off the baby's leg, and the baby died in the middle of the night outside in the woods. And I heard Houdini just crying and just, ooh, she was just like, oh, just like, oh my God. And Houdini, I consider like to be my granddaughter. That's Rowdy Girl's firstborn daughter. And Houdini is the very first cow, other than Rowdy Girl, that I really, really connected with in a real deep way. She really is like a granddaughter to me. And so when I heard her crying out there, I told Tommy, I says, Tommy, something's wrong with Houdini. You hear that? And we knew she was pregnant. And I heard all this, and I walked out, I ran out, and sure enough, her baby had died in the night. Had been chewed up by a coyote, the leg. And she was crying, and I sat there with her, bawling with her, crying with her. I cradled her baby, her dead baby, right there with her. And I buried her baby right there where she passed. And Houdini went there every second of the day for days, and she would still go there.
Wow. Cheryl says, what about a local school program to help?
Yeah, so we have a program called Families Choosing Compassion, and we haven't actually taken it into the schools yet, but we have plans to do so. It's in our plans. And so what we do is when children get connected to the animals that they're taking care of in FFA, which is Future Farmers of America, or 4-H, a lot of these kids, they don't want to see their animals go to the sale barn. They don't want to see their animals get slaughtered. And kids are taught in school to disconnect. They're taught in school to take care of these animals, and then to let go of them and send them to slaughter for money, to go to college and all. And we have a program where we have, 3 of our great big pigs are from former FFA students. 5 or 6 of our cows and steer are former FFA or 4-H. And, we have 2 lambs that are now sheep that were former FFA. And so what we're doing, the way we educate, is when these families contact us, we can't take them all. And we won't take them if they decide to stay in the FFA or 4-H program. There's a whole process that we go through. It's an interview process. And if they're willing to not keep their child in FFA or 4-H, then we are willing to take next steps with them. And then the family comes and we interview them here. We talk to them. And in the process of doing that, we talk about veganism. We educate on a plant-based diet and why it's so important. And that how if you can't keep putting animals into the system, you can't keep buying animals for your kids to put in FFA and have this happen every single time, because you're paying for the breeders to breed. You're paying for the suffering. And sanctuaries are overrun with animals. And the last thing I want to do is contribute to the suffering. So the only way I will take those animals is if the family is educated, willing to stay away from that, and then they commit to coming and seeing the animal, and until they die, until they leave this earth. So these kids now, then the animal that they had in FFA is now at Rowdy Girl, and a lot of them go vegan, vegetarian. They come out here, they take care of the animals, and it's a beautiful thing, to see these kids and these families go vegan and vegetarian, and you just keep inspiring and motivating.
So Susan, who's watching live, just made a donation to the sanctuary. So I'm ringing the bell for you. cowbell, no
Oh,
less.
that's so
And
sweet.
she wants to know how you name the animals. And I was just thinking, if you don't already do this, I would love the opportunity to make a large donation, but get to name the animal like for that. That would be the level I'd be interested in, actually name one of the cows or pigs. Because if there was a pig, I'd like to name it AJ, so that when people tell me, God, you eat like a pig, I'm like, yes, and I do, as a matter of fact.
I love that. It's so fun. That is a great idea. Yeah, we've had naming contests in the past, and I would be delighted to give you the opportunity to name an animal. It's like when we know we're fixing to get an animal. Sometimes they're already named, and in my mind, I have a real problem taking their name away from them. But if they don't have a name, then absolutely, I am so open to that. So
that would be
open to
just
that.
so fun. Like you could either have people bid for it or just have levels. Like maybe a chicken is smaller, so it's this many $100 to name the chicken. But I don't know. I just think it would be kind of fun to have that. Sort of like when you get a galaxy or a star named after you. There's supposedly or a tree, you can do that. So there's a question about the award. Stephanie says there was an award behind Renee, a Veggie Awards plaque. What was it given for?
Oh God, you can see that?
Maybe she's zooming in on her phone because I didn't see it.
That's so funny. This was from 2015. I was the rookie activist of the year. Yeah. And I was so surprised. I was as surprised. I mean, I was such a new activist. I didn't even know I was one. So I just, I just knew that I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it anymore. And I was just a loudmouth about it everywhere. And then I got invited also that next year, and the Animal Rights Conference, and to speak. I think that was in 2016. And that was a real honor. And that's when I got to meet the folks at Veg News, Tom Holland and all of them. So
that's amazing. So we were raised Orthodox Jewish. And so in my religion, we don't hunt. Like we don't wear fur, we don't hunt. I mean, they do eat animals, and Jewish, they have this way they kill them they think is better, which it's really not. But so when I've talked to people that are hunters, they say, well, if we didn't kill the deer, we'd be overpopulated with deer. And I've heard people say, well, if we didn't eat the cows and the pigs and the chicken, we'd have too many. So how do you counter that nonsense? Because I'm sure there would be a way to figure out that there would be a balance. And where would they live? Because I know they're entitled to live, but let's just say that we could just stop all farming, all animal agriculture. There's a lot of animals right now. And how do we fix this mess?
Well, this is exactly the kind of stuff we're going to be talking about at the RAP Summit in November. This is the big problem, is what do you do with the animals when a rancher wants to transition, wants to change, or a pig farmer or a chicken farmer? What do you do with the animals? And, I am very committed to solving this problem. If you stop breeding, just stop breeding, you make a big difference just by stopping that. We've got to start taking care of our land, our planet. And, there's plenty of earth to go around. We're just using it in the wrong way. We're not using the planet in the right way. We're not good stewards of the land. I mean, if you can think back in biblical times, the earth was not used for breeding, purposeful breeding. They didn't have feedlots. They didn't do this stuff. There was none of that. This is something that humanity has grown into as a result of greed and power and money. And so what we've got to do, those of us that are awake, we've got to start taking the land back. Like I have 147 acres here. If I had 1,047 acres, I could fill it up with animals that need homes. But one of the things I would do if I had a lot of land, and this is one of the things I really want to do as part of our initiative in RAP, is I want to be able to get land in land trust or land grants. And people like us that care, us start figuring out how to take care of the land, how to restore the soil, the natural habitat, rewild it, put food forests in there, do whatever we have to do to bring the natural elements back to that land, depending on geographically where it's at. And then when you can do that, you can start to put animals back on that land, and the land will take care of the animals. See, the only reason the land today can't take care of the animals is because we as humanity does not take care of the land. It's so simple, it just escapes us. Because see, it means we lose money, we lose power if we start taking care of the land so animals can just be animals. We want to use the land up until we don't have any more. We want to burn it up in the Amazon. We want to just destroy our land. All the palm trees, the palm oil, all that stuff, that comes from the Amazon, and all the orangutans that are killed, and the polar bears. We're just destroying animals left and right because we are not taking care of the land. If we take care of the land, the animals will be taken care of. Then we don't have to have sanctuaries for them. See, we have to get back to basics. We have to go back and think like they thought in the very beginning of time. We had plenty of room for everyone. Humanity is the one that's overbreeding. And I know I may be hurting somebody's feelings by saying that. I hope not. But I think, humanity needs to be spaded and neutered. And, I don't say that to be funny or anything. I just think that we have way too many people on this planet. And then when you consider that we have all these people, and that people that in animal agriculture are breeding all these animals to feed all these people, where are they going to breed them at? We got to stop this nonsense. So people like you that are awake need to connect with people like me over here and the people that we're connected with in RAP, so we can figure out solutions on how to take care of the land. We take care of the land, we get land grants, we get land trusts, we figure out how to do this all over the globe. And then if we take care of the land, the animals will naturally have a home.
I always wondered, I think about this in my mind, like they're so much bigger, there's so many more. Why can't they just mutiny? Why can't they organize? That's what I wish.
Know, right?
They're so docile. Sherry wants to know if you're still singing to them. I know you used to be a singer.
I do sing to them. Of course. Yeah, I make up little songs for them, and I will go out with my guitar from time to time, or just me, and they love it. They love music and sound. There's a song I wrote called Resonating to the Sound. And I wrote it before I was vegan, but it really kind of is something I believe in. I believe that sound, that vibration is what was meant. Like if the Bible is true, or a book like that, and where it says in the beginning was the word, I really do believe that in the beginning was sound. And so I chant in Sanskrit and Gurmukh. So I not only sing, but I chant. I will go out there and just do my yoga stuff, and do my chanting. And they really, really, really love that.
Do you ever sing, there was an activist who had a sanctuary and Rowdy was her name, girl, Rowdy? You ever sing that to them?
Did you just make that up?
Well, I didn't make up the tune. It's, there was a farmer who had a dog and Bingo was his name, but it just came to me like that would be a cute song to sing to Rowdy.
That is so fun. I love that you just did that. That's what I do all the time.
Make up songs. I wish we could do that. Maybe we could do this outside sometime and actually show people the sanctuary. I think they'd really like that.
We can do that. I can go
That
out there
would
with the cows with my computer. Go out there and sit right there with them when it's cooler.
that would be, yes, let's do it. And then we get you even more donations. So there is a question, like if, I'm sorry, it went so fast, I didn't see who asked it, but if you have like 20 chickens, how do you tell them apart? Like who's who? Do they all look different? Pumpkin
Well,
asked.
pumpkin, how pumpkin? It depends. I mean, like we rescued a whole flock, like 15 of these big white chickens, you know, like the big broilers from Colorado when that slaughterhouse there went out of business. And this lady, this slaughterhouse owner, our chicken farm owner, just completely let these animals just die. I mean, she was having to just let them go, and she couldn't afford to pay for them. She couldn't afford to kill them. She couldn't afford to do anything. And they were cannibalizing each other. It was 5-degree weather. We got these white, beautiful chickens. They came to us and you couldn't tell them apart. So we got these little plastic things, and we put like their names on these little plastic things and put that on their little ankles so we could tell them apart until we started, like, you know, noticing, you know, what you do, just like with cows or anything. Like when I first started naming the cows, it was hard to tell them apart because they were, you know, they were all black. We had black Angus cows. If you have all black cows, all white cows, all red cows, and until you really start noticing, like, just like me and AJ, you know, we both kind of look, you know, I mean, you know, you have to look at the nuances, the nose, the brow, the chin, you know, you just look at nuances, the saggy chin, you know, whatever it is, and you notice these things and you begin to like hone in on those things. But you don't notice it until you observe. So a lot of the ways you tell the chickens apart or the cows apart is by observing, just watching their brow, their chin, and who they hang out with. And then you start kind of associating, just like twins, triplets. You know, you just have to observe them. Yeah.
And if people did, they wouldn't eat them. You know, I think about the quote from Leonardo da Vinci: the time will come when men such as I will look upon the murder of animals as they now look upon the murder of men.
Exactly. Oh my God. And it's going to happen. It is happening. I believe it with all my heart. And people like you and Linda Middlesworth, you know, and Jane Velez Mitchell, people that have strong voices out here. That's what's making it. That's what's making it happen. And it will keep happening. It's going to happen. I hope it happens in my lifetime. But regardless, I know that I'm going to keep doing whatever I have to do to be the best human I can be for the animals.
Well, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate what you're doing. And because you woke up, you're waking up so many people.
Oh, thank you, AJ. You're such a sweetheart. What a sweet soul you are.
Thank you. Sensitive for sure, especially where the animals are concerned. I wish I liked people as much, you know.
Oh, did you go vegan for the animals?
Absolutely. Well, in 1977, we didn't have the internet or Dr. Barnard, so I had no idea it was going to end up being the healthier choice, and nobody really cared about the environment yet at the 70s. So absolutely. I would have done it sooner, but I had a worried Jewish mother that I wasn't going to get enough protein, you know. So at the day I left home, September 1st, 1977, so I just celebrated my 43rd vegan anniversary. So think about how many I've saved. Like, what do they say? If you don't eat them, it's like 200 a year times 43. So quite a few. Yeah.
43 years.
Yeah. I can't believe, I mean, I'm very, of all the things in my life that I'm the most proud of, it's that. And like you have an award, I have one right there from a Vegetarian Society of North America, where I'm in the Vegan Hall of Fame. So really at the end of the day, that's what I do. What I do is, you know, I do it in the form of helping people lose weight or making recipes, but really my ulterior motive, which isn't, you know, which is kind of out in the open, is I want people to stop eating animals and stop hurting animals and abusing animals. It doesn't, you know, even sometimes they're not being eaten, but just even the way, you know, animal shelters, that like just the fact that people can have a pet and then one day decide they don't want it. It's just the way that people treat animals. And I don't.
Oh, I know.
I
I know.
can't
I was
just,
at the dentist yesterday. I know. I hear you. Oh my God, I get it. It's just, how
it's
can you
got to
do that?
stop. It has got to stop. It is just, it's got to stop.
You
But
need to, you need to.
thanks to people like you and Linda Middlesworth, it is stopping. And you know, so I really, these are the, you know, I've been on podcasts. I think it was the Plant Trainers podcast, and they said, well, what are you grateful for? And really, it's really people. Listen, I don't get out there in the front lines, and I don't have to see the horrific things that people that work for some of these advocacy organizations do, but it's people like you that really are saving them on the front lines. You are my heroes. And so if I can just offer a platform so more people can find out about you and donate, and I look forward to you coming back when you can show us the outside, because I think that's how we're going to get donations. Especially, I love that name the pig contest, you know. I think that I'm good at marketing.
Let me show you Rowdy Girl here. Can you see her?
Oh my God, she's got a heart on her head.
Yes, she does. That's my Rowdy Girl. That's my Rowdy Girl. It sure is.
You know what? I almost feel like there is this woman, and she hasn't been on the show yet. She's vegan. She's a very well-known animal communicator. She's rather shy, and I almost feel like I need to get you a session with her, because there's got to be something from that. Rowdy's got to be somebody that was sent to you for. I mean, I don't know, but this story is just eerily, you know, there's something there.
When you hear my book, it's all about that. The name of the book, I can't even give it away, but I'm working with a lady. Her name is Dr. Gay Bradshaw. She's my ghostwriter. And it's the most profound experience to hear my voice coming through the way it is, because she just talks to me, and then I write stuff and then send it to her. And when it comes back, it's like the whole message of the book is really about, I don't know where Rowdy Girl begins and I end. It's like I really was born the day I met Rowdy Girl. You know, and it's kind of like some people think I'm Rowdy Girl because I am kind of rowdy, and she is in me. I promise you, I don't even have to be out there, and I can feel her.
You know, this needs to be more than a documentary. It needs to be a Hollywood film when they start making them again. And I think Susan Sarandon would be perfect to play you.
Ah, there you go. I'd love it. She could come out here and interview all the animals.
Any screenwriters out there, I think you got a story. Well, yeah, I just typed that this is one interview. I just didn't want to end, but we're going to have you back when you can go outside. So thanks everyone for watching and considering doing like Susan did and make a donation, either small or recurring or large, to Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. I've posted the link many times. And for those of you that are vegan, thank you so much for saving animals. And those that are considering it, thanks for being as meatless as you can. And we appreciate what you do. So thanks so much for your work. It's making such a difference.
Thank you. Thank you so much, AJ. It's been a real pleasure.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank all of you out there. I appreciate all of you out there. Thank you. Thank you.